The ship shook as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Captain Taman gripped his seat tightly. He had trained for years for this mission, but nothing could prepare him for actual contact with humans. "Final approach to landing zone," said the pilot. "All diplomats and security personnel prepare for arrival." Taman checked his translation device one last time. The small silver disc attached to his neck would convert human speech to something he could understand. His blue skin blended well with his dark uniform. The 3 fingers on each of his hands moved quickly over his weapon, making sure it was set to stun, not kill. "Remember," said Commander Bach, his superior officer, "humans are dangerous and unpredictable. We've studied their broadcast for decades. They fight wars constantly. Be ready for anything." Taman nodded.
Every Novan child grew up learning about humans and their violent ways.
The intercepted television shows, movies, and news reports all showed the same thing. A species that loved to fight and kill. A sudden explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed red across the cabin. "We're hit," shouted the pilot. "Someone is firing at us from the ground." Taman's training took over. "Secure the diplomats. Prepare for emergency landing." The ship spun out of control, dropping from the sky like a stone. Taman saw the green Earth landscape coming up fast through the window. There was a terrible crash and then darkness. When he woke up, Taman was lying in a field. Smoke rose from the crashed ship about 50 meters away. His head hurt and his leg was bleeding. He tried his communication device, but it was damaged. "Hello? Commander Bach? Anyone there?" He called, but no one answered. In the distance, he heard the sound of human vehicles. They would be coming to investigate the crash. Taman knew he had to hide. The mission was clearly compromised. This was supposed to be a peaceful first contact in a neutral zone, but someone had shot them down. Moving as quickly as his injured leg would allow, Taman limped toward a line of trees. The forest would provide cover while he figured out what to do next. As he moved, he checked his weapon and emergency supplies. He had enough food for 3 days, his translator still worked, and his gun was functional. Not ideal, but he could survive. For hours, Taman moved through the forest, staying hidden. His leg got worse, and he started to feel dizzy from blood loss. Just as the sun began to set, he heard voices. Human voices. He crouched behind a fallen tree and prepared his weapon. 2 humans walked into view. They wore uniforms with red cross symbols. Medical personnel, according to his briefing. One was tall with short black hair. The other smaller with longer hair tied back. The smaller one was a female, he thought, though it was hard to tell with humans sometimes. "I'm telling you, I saw something move this way," said the taller one. The female looked around carefully. "We should head back soon. It's getting dark and this area isn't secured yet." Taman tried to move backward, but his injured leg gave way. He fell with a grunt of pain. Both humans turned toward the sound. "There," said the male. "Behind that log." Taman raised his weapon, ready to defend himself. The humans approached cautiously. "When they saw him, their eyes went wide with shock. "What the hell is that?" said the male, reaching for his sidearm. The female put her hand on her companion's arm. "Wait, Sunwoo. Look, it's injured." Taman pointed his weapon at them. "Stay back," he said, his translator converting his words to human speech. Both humans froze. "It can talk," whispered Sunwoo. The female took a step forward, hands raised to show she was unarmed. "We're medics. We can help you." "You're hurt." Taman kept his weapon steady. "Why did you attack our ship? This was supposed to be a peaceful mission." The female looked confused. "Attack? We didn't attack anyone. We're with the International Peacekeeping Force. We're here to help civilians." Taman felt dizzy again. His vision blurred. He tried to keep his weapon up, but his arm felt too heavy. "You need medical attention," said the female, taking another step closer. "My name is Juri. I'm a doctor. Please let me help you." Before Taman could respond, he collapsed. The last thing he saw was the female, Juri, rushing toward him. When he woke up again, he was in a small tent. His leg had been bandaged, and an IV drip was attached to his arm. Juri sat nearby watching him. "You're awake," she said. "Good, I was worried about the blood transfusion. Your blood is similar to ours, but not identical." Taman tried to sit up, looking for his weapon. "Where am I? Where is my gun?" "You're safe," said Juri. "I didn't tell anyone about you yet, and I put your things over there." She pointed to his pack and weapon in the corner of the tent. Taman was confused. "Why are you helping me?"
Why didn't you report me?
Juri smiled slightly. Because you're injured and I'm a doctor. That's reason enough. And because I think you might be connected to that ship that crashed, the one everyone is talking about. Where is the rest of my team? Asked Taman. Juri's face grew serious. The crash site is under military control now. I don't know if they found survivors. I'm sorry. Taman tried to process this information. Had the entire diplomatic mission failed? Were any other Novans alive? And who had attacked them? You said you're peacekeepers, he said finally. But someone shot down our ship. We came in peace. There are many factions in this region, explained Juri. The civil war has been going on for 3 years. We peacekeepers try to protect civilians and provide medical aid. But there are government forces, rebels, and private military companies all fighting here. This wasn't in any of Taman's briefings. The situation was far more complex than he had been told. I need to contact my people, he said. Your communication device was damaged, said Juri. I tried to fix it, but she shrugged. Why are you hiding me? Asked Taman. Because if the military finds you, they'll take you away for study or worse, she said. And because I have questions. Are there more like you? Why did you come here? Are you planning to invade? Taman almost laughed. Invade? No. We came to establish diplomatic relations. After decades of studying your broadcasts, our leaders decided it was time for official contact. Broadcasts? You mean television, movies? Juri looked surprised. Yes. We've been monitoring your communications for many years. We know about your wars, your weapons, your violence. Juri frowned. And you think that's all we are? Just violence and war? Before Taman could answer, there was a shout outside the tent. Juri jumped up. That's Sunwoo. Stay quiet and don't move. I'll be back. She slipped out of the tent. Taman could hear urgent voices outside. He strained to listen. We have incoming wounded, Sunwoo was saying. The village to the north was shelled. Many civilians hurt. How many? Asked Juri. At least 20. Some are children. We need all medical personnel now. I'll get my kit, said Juri. She came back into the tent, moving quickly. I have to go. People need help. Stay here and rest. I'll be back when I can. Taman watched as she gathered medical supplies. You're going to help humans who were injured in a battle? Of course, she said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. They're innocent civilians, children. Despite his pain and confusion, Taman felt curious. This wasn't how Novans expected humans to behave. Can I see? I want to understand. Juri looked at him for a long moment. Can you walk? I think so. Then put this on. She handed him a large coat and a hat. It will hide your appearance enough for now. Stay close to me and don't speak unless necessary. With Juri's help, Taman made his way outside. The camp was bustling with activity. Medical personnel rushed back and forth. Vehicles arrived carrying injured people, humans of all ages, many bleeding and crying out in pain. Taman watched in amazement as Juri and the other medics worked tirelessly to save lives. They showed no concern for which faction the injured belonged to. They simply helped everyone. As night fell, Taman sat outside the medical tent, still hidden under his coat and hat. He watched as Juri knelt beside a small human child, carefully bandaging her arm. The child was crying and Juri spoke softly, comforting her. A sudden explosion lit up the night sky to the north. Everyone in the camp looked up. They're still fighting, said Sunwoo, who had appeared next to Taman without him noticing. Even after what they did to that village. Even with all these children hurt. They just keep fighting. Taman didn't know what to say. This was both exactly what he expected from humans and somehow completely different. The violence was real, yes, but so was the compassion he was witnessing. As another explosion rumbled in the distance, Juri finished bandaging the child and stood up. She looked exhausted but determined. She caught Taman's eye and gave him a small nod before turning to help the next patient. In that moment, Taman realized that everything he thought he knew about humans might be wrong. Or at least incomplete. There was more to this species than the Novans had understood. Much more. 3 days passed. Taman helped in the medical camp when he could. His blue skin and 3-fingered hand stayed hidden under gloves and a large coat. Most people were too busy with the wounded to notice him. Juri taught him basic medical skills. How to clean wounds, apply bandages, and comfort the injured. It was nothing like his military training on Nova. Why do you help everyone? Taman asked one evening as they ate a simple meal of rice and beans. Even people from enemy groups? Juri looked surprised by the question. Because they're people who need help. That's what doctors do. Before Taemin could ask more, Sunwoo burst into the tent. His face was covered in dust and he was breathing hard. We need to evacuate now, he said. The Blackwater militia is coming this way. They've already attacked the east checkpoint. Juri jumped to her feet. How much time do we have? Maybe an hour. We're loading the critical patients now. After Sunwoo left, Juri turned to Taemin. You should come with us. It's not safe here. Taemin nodded. What is this Blackwater militia? A private army paid by people who want control of the region's resources, Juri explained as she packed medical supplies. They don't care about the peace talks or the civilians. They just want to control the land and the mines. The camp became a blur of activity. Medical staff loaded patients into trucks and ambulances. Security personnel took defensive positions around the perimeter. Taemin helped carry supplies and equipment. Just as the last patients were being loaded, gunfire erupted from the tree line to the east. Everyone ran for cover. They're here early, shouted Sunwoo. Get those trucks moving now. Juri grabbed Taemin's arm. Come on, we need to go. They ran toward the last ambulance. Bullets hit the ground around them. Without thinking, Taemin pushed Juri behind a concrete barrier, shielding her with his body. More gunfire came from the north. The camp was being surrounded. The road is cut off, said a security officer near them. They must have circled around. Juri looked at Taemin with fear in her eyes. What do we do? Taemin thought quickly. His Novan training included escape and evasion tactics. Is there a river or stream nearby? Yes, about half a kilometer west. Then we go that way through the woods. Water will hide our trail. They waited for a pause in the shooting, then ran toward the western edge of the camp. 2 other medical staff followed them, Sunwoo and a young female nurse named Minji. The forest was thick, making it hard to move quickly but providing good cover. They could hear the sounds of battle fading behind them. After 20 minutes of running and walking, they reached a small river. Follow the water north, said Taemin. It should lead away from the fighting. How do you know so much about escape tactics? Asked Sunwoo, looking at Taemin with suspicion. I was a soldier before I was a medic, Taemin lied. They waded through the shallow water for over an hour. The sun was setting when Juri spotted a small cabin on the riverbank. That might be a ranger station, she said. We could rest there for the night. The cabin was empty and dusty, but it had a roof and walls. While the others gathered wood for a small fire, Taemin kept watch outside. From a hill near the cabin, he could see smoke rising from the direction of the camp. He wondered if any of the patients and staff had escaped. His thoughts were interrupted by Sunwoo, who came to stand beside him. Who are you really? Sunwoo asked quietly. You're not like any medic I've ever met. Taemin turned to face him. What do you mean? The way you move, the way you watch everything. You're military trained. Special forces, maybe? Taemin didn't know what to say. Sunwoo was observant. Too observant. It's okay, said Sunwoo. We all have secrets in this war. I was a soldier too, before I became a medic. I know the signs. Inside the cabin, Juri had started a small fire in the fireplace. Minji was checking their limited medical supplies. We need to find the nearest peacekeeping base, said Juri. Our priority is getting Minji to safety. Why me? Asked Minji. Juri smiled. Because you're pregnant. Don't think I haven't noticed. Minji looked down. Only 3 months. I was going to tell everyone next week. Taemin was surprised. Humans cared deeply about protecting new life, just like Novans. Another similarity he hadn't expected. There's a resistance group operating in these mountains, said Sunwoo. They're fighting against Blackwater and helping civilians escape the conflict zone. If we can find them, they might help us get to the northern safe zone. How do we find them? Asked Taemin. I know some recognition signals, said Sunwoo. But first we need to reach the mountain pass, about a day's journey from here. They spent the night in the cabin, taking turns keeping watch. In the morning they continued north along the river until it turned west toward the mountains. The journey was difficult. The terrain was rough and they had little food. Minji struggled to keep up and they had to rest often. On the second day they heard helicopters flying overhead, Blackwater patrols looking for survivors. "We need to move faster," said Sunwoo. "The mountain pass is just beyond that ridge." As they climbed the steep path toward the ridge, Taemin noticed something odd, a small reflective object hidden in the rocks. He stopped, signaling the others to wait. "What is it?" asked Juri. Taemin knelt down to examine the object without touching it. His Novan vision could see spectrum ranges that humans couldn't. "It's a sensor of some kind," he said. "Very advanced." Sunwoo looked at him with renewed suspicion. "How can you tell that from here?" Before Taemin could answer, they heard voices coming up the path behind them. Armed men in black uniforms were climbing toward them, Blackwater militia. "Run!" whispered Sunwoo. "Up to those rocks!" They scrambled up the path, trying to stay low. The militia hadn't spotted them yet, but it was only a matter of time. Just as they reached a cluster of large boulders, gunfire erupted, but not aimed at them. Someone was shooting at the Blackwater militia from above. "Get down!" shouted a voice from the rocks above them. 4 fighters in camouflage appeared, firing down at the militia. After a brief firefight, the Blackwater soldiers retreated. One of the fighters approached them. He was a tall man with a scar across his face. "Who are you, and why are you climbing our mountain?" Sunwoo stepped forward. "We're medical personnel from the southern camp. It was attacked 2 days ago. We're trying to reach the northern safe zone." The man studied them carefully. "Show me your identification." They all produced their medical ID cards except Taemin, who stayed back, keeping his face hidden under his hat. "What about him?" asked the fighter, pointing at Taemin. "He lost his ID in the attack," said Juri quickly. "But he's with us. He helped us escape." The man didn't look convinced. "Commander Hansu will decide what to do with you. Follow me." They were led up a hidden path to a small settlement built into the mountainside. It was well camouflaged and would be nearly impossible to spot from the air. About 30 people lived there, fighters and civilians who had fled the war. "Commander." Hansu was in a cave that served as a command center. Maps and communication equipment covered the walls. He was a middle-aged man with streaks of gray in his hair, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Medics, huh?" he said after hearing their story. "We could use your skills. We have wounded here with limited supplies. We'll help in any way we can," said Juri. Hansu nodded, then pointed at Taemin. "And what about you? Take off that hat and let me see your face." Taemin hesitated, looking at Juri. She gave a small nod. Slowly, Taemin removed his hat. A collective gasp filled the room as they saw his blue skin and alien features. "What the hell is this?" demanded Hansu, reaching for his weapon. "Wait," said Juri, stepping between them. "He's not dangerous. He was part of a diplomatic mission that was shot down. He helped us escape the camp." Hansu kept his hand on his gun. "A real live alien? Here? Do you know what some people would give to get their hands on him? The military, the government, private corporations. They'd start another war just to capture him." "Which is why we kept him hidden," said Sunwoo. "But he's proven himself. He helped save us." Hansu was quiet for a long moment. "Lock him up until I decide what to do, and not a word about this to anyone outside this room. Understood?" Taemin was taken to a small storage room with a heavy door. There was a cot in the corner and a small window too high to reach and too small to escape through. The door was locked from the outside. Hours later, Juri came to see him. She brought food and fresh water. "I'm sorry about this," she said. "Hansu is just being cautious." "I understand," said Taemin. "In his position, I would do the same." "He wants to turn you over to the government," she said quietly. "He thinks your technology could help end the war." Taemin shook his head. "That would only make things worse. My people would see it as an act of aggression." Juri sat on the edge of the cot. "Then help me convince him. Show him that working together is better than fighting. These people have seen too much war already." Taemin looked at her carefully. "Why do you trust me? I'm not human. I'm a soldier from another world." "Because I've seen how you help people," she said simply. "That matters more than where you come from." As he listened to her, Taemin realized something important. The humans in the broadcasts and the humans he was meeting now were the same species, but they showed such different sides. The next morning, Taemin was brought to Hansu's command center. The room was empty except for Hansu, Juri, and Sun Woo. "Sit down," said Hansu, pointing to a chair across from him. "Juri tells me you came here on a peaceful mission. Is that true?" Taemin nodded. "Yes, we have been watching Earth for many years. Our leaders decided it was time to make official contact." "Why now?" asked Hansu. "Your technology is advancing quickly. Soon you will develop faster than light travel. When that happens, our peoples would meet anyway. Better to establish relations now on peaceful terms." Hansu leaned back in his chair. "Yet you crashed in the middle of a war zone. Not the best place for a peace mission." "We were shot down," said Taemin. "Our landing zone was supposed to be a neutral area under United Nations control. There are no truly neutral areas left in this region," said Hansu. "Too many competing interests." He studied Taemin for a moment. "What did your people know about us before coming here?" Taemin hesitated. "We intercepted your broadcasts. Television, radio, internet. We saw your wars, your weapons. We thought humans were primarily a warrior species." Hansu laughed, a short, bitter sound. "And what do you think now?" "I think it's more complicated than we understood," said Taemin. "Yes, humans fight wars. But I've also seen humans risk their lives to save others. I've seen kindness I didn't expect." Hansu nodded slowly. "Come with me. I want to show you something." They left the cave and walked to another part of the mountain settlement. Hansu led them to a small building made of wood and stone. Inside, books and artifacts filled the shelves. Children sat at tables reading or writing. "This is our school," said Hansu. "Even in war, we teach our children. History, science, art, music." An old woman was teaching a group of young children to sing. Their voices were clear and beautiful in the small space. "Do you have schools on your world?" asked Hansu. "Yes," said Taemin. "But we don't teach music during war. Wartime is for military training only." Hansu nodded. "That's the difference you're starting to see. Humans don't love war, Taemin. We document it, study it, remember it, precisely because we fear it." They left the school and continued through the settlement. Hansu pointed out the medical center, the community garden, and the memorial wall where pictures of the dead were displayed. "See those?" he said, pointing to stone markers with names carved into them. "War memorials. Every human culture has them. Not to glorify war, but to remember its cost." Taemin was confused. "But your films, your games, they seem to celebrate violence." "Some do," admitted Hansu. "But most are warnings, not celebrations. They show the horror so we don't forget." They returned to the command center. Hansu spread a map on the table. "Let me tell you about this war," he said. "It's not simple good versus evil. It's about resources, politics, old grievances, and new opportunities. Some fight for freedom, some for profit, some because they have no choice." For the next hour, Hansu explained the complex factors behind the conflict. The government trying to maintain control. The rebels fighting for autonomy. The corporations exploiting the chaos to gain access to valuable minerals. The peacekeepers caught in the middle. Taemin listened carefully, asking questions when he didn't understand. It was nothing like the simple enemy versus enemy conflicts on Nova. "And what about these Blackwater militia?" asked Taemin. "Who do they work for?" Hansu's face darkened. "Officially, they're a private security company protecting mining interests. Unofficially, they're mercenaries who follow the money. Lately, they've gotten new weapons, very advanced weapons. We don't know where they're coming from." "Can I see these weapons?" asked Taemin. "We captured some in our last raid," said Hansu. "Sunwoo, take him to the armory." Sunwoo led Taemin to a small, heavily guarded bunker. Inside, weapons of all kinds lined the walls. Sunwoo pointed to a table where several sleek black rifles were laid out. "These are the new ones," he said. "They showed up about 3 months ago. Much more powerful than anything we've seen before." Taemin picked up one of the rifles, examining it carefully. His hands froze when he saw a small symbol etched into the metal near the trigger, a curved line with 3 dots. It was a Novan manufacturing mark. "What's wrong?" asked Sunwoo, noticing his reaction. "Nothing," said Taemin, putting the weapon down. "It's just very advanced." His mind was racing. How did Novan weapons get to Earth? Who was supplying them to the Blackwater militia? And why? When they returned to Hansu's command center, A young fighter rushed in with news. Commander, we intercepted a Blackwater communication. They're planning a major assault on the northern refugee camp tomorrow. They know about the peacekeepers' evacuation route. Hansu cursed. How did they get that information? It was classified. He turned to Juri and Sunwoo. We need to warn the camp. If Blackwater attacks during the evacuation, hundreds of civilians could die. Our radio can't reach that far, said Sunwoo. There's a communication station on the eastern ridge, said Hansu. If you can get there, you can send a warning. I'll go, said Sunwoo. Me too, said Juri. Hansu looked at Taemin. What about you, alien? Will you help save human lives? Taemin thought about the Novan weapons. He needed to learn more about how they got here. I'll go with them. Hansu provided them with supplies, weapons, and a map showing the location of the communication station. They set out at noon, hoping to reach the station by nightfall. As they hiked through the mountains, Taemin's mind was troubled. The presence of Novan weapons on Earth could only mean one thing. Someone from his world was secretly supplying arms to humans. This violated every diplomatic protocol and could lead to war between their species. You're quiet, said Juri as they stopped to rest. What's bothering you? Taemin hesitated. Should he tell her about the weapons? Would she even believe him? I'm worried about my people, he said finally. If I don't report back soon, they might think I'm dead or captured. They could send more ships. Is that bad? Asked Juri. It could be, said Taemin. If they believe humans are hostile, they might come armed for war, not peace. The path grew steeper as they climbed toward the ridge. By late afternoon, they could see the communications station in the distance, a small building with a large antenna. We should wait until dark before approaching, said Sunwoo. The station might be guarded. They found a sheltered spot to rest. As the sun began to set, Taemin took out his translator device and examined it. If he could boost its power, he might be able to send a message to any Novan ships in orbit. What are you doing? Asked Sunwoo. Trying to fix my communicator, said Taemin. If I can contact my ship, I might be able to stop more Novans from coming. Sunwoo watched him work for a while, then said, You're not really a medic, are you? Taemin looked up. No, I'm a soldier. A captain in the Novan Defense Force. I thought so, said Sunwoo. The way you handle weapons, the way you move. You're trained for combat. So are you, said Taemin. Sunwoo nodded. I was Special Forces before I became a medic. I got tired of killing and decided to save lives instead. Why do humans do that? Asked Taemin. On my world, once you are a soldier, you stay a soldier. Humans change, said Sunwoo. We grow, we learn, we try to be better. Night fell and they moved toward the communication station. As they got closer, Sunwoo raised his hand for them to stop. There, he whispered, pointing to movement near the building. Guards! Taemin counted 4 figures patrolling around the station. Blackwater? Yes, said Sunwoo. They must be using the station to coordinate their attack. How do we get past them? Asked Juri. Sunwoo looked at Taemin. You're a soldier from another world. Any alien tricks that might help us? Taemin thought for a moment. Maybe. My night vision is better than human vision. I can see heat signatures. I could take out the guards silently. Sunwoo nodded. Do it. We'll cover you if anything goes wrong. Taemin moved silently down the slope, using rocks and trees for cover. He approached the first guard from behind and used a Novan pressure point technique to render him unconscious. The second guard was just as easy. As he moved toward the third guard, something caught his attention. The guard was using a communication device that looked strangely familiar. It had the same curved design as Novan technology. Taemin neutralized the third and fourth guards quickly, then signaled for Juri and Sunwoo to join him. Inside the communication station, they found more evidence of Novan technology. Power cells, computer interfaces, even the main communication array had been modified with Novan components. What is all this? Asked Juri, looking at the strange equipment. It's from my world, said Taemin quietly. This technology shouldn't be here. What do you mean? Asked Sunwoo. Before Taemin could answer, he noticed a datapad on the main console. He picked it up and activated it. The screen lit up with Novan text, shipping manifests, weapon schematics, and communication logs. I don't understand, said Taemin, scrolling through the data. These are Novan military supplies. They've been coming to Earth for months. Your people have been supplying weapons to Blackwater? Asked Juri, her voice filled with disbelief. Not my people, said Taimin. At least not officially. This must be a rogue operation. The High Council would never approve this. Sun Wu moved to the main communications array. We can worry about that later. Dawn broke over the mountains. Taimin, Juri, and Sun Wu had taken shelter in a small cave after fleeing the communication station. Sun Wu's wound was not life-threatening, but he needed proper medical care. We need to get back to Hansu's camp, said Juri as she checked Sun Wu's bandages. He's lost too much blood. Taimin nodded, looking at the Novan datapad he had taken from the station. These files contain proof that a Novan general is supplying weapons to Blackwater. If we can show this to your world leaders, maybe we can stop both the human conflict and the Novan invasion. First, we need to survive, said Sun Wu weakly. Blackwater will be hunting us. They set off at first light, moving slowly because of Sun Wu's injury. The forest provided good cover, but the terrain was rough. By midday, they had covered only a few kilometers. We need to rest, said Juri, helping Sun Wu sit against a tree. As Taimin kept watch, he noticed something strange in the distance, a small drone hovering above the trees. It wasn't a human design. It was Novan. We need to move, he said urgently. We're being tracked. They helped Sun Wu to his feet and hurried deeper into the forest. The drone followed at a distance. Soon they heard the sound of vehicles on a road nearby. This way, said Taimin, leading them away from the sound. They crossed a small stream and climbed a steep hill, trying to stay hidden under the tree canopy. At the top of the hill, they stopped suddenly. A man stood in their path, pointing a rifle at them. He was older, with gray hair and a weathered face, wearing civilian clothes. Don't move, he said calmly. Who are you and why are Blackwater drones following you? Juri stepped forward slightly. I'm Dr. Juri from the International Medical Corps. This is Sun Wu, also a medic. He's injured. And this is Taimin, our friend. The man looked at Taimin suspiciously. Even with his hat pulled low, his alien features were becoming harder to hide. My name is Sung Ho, said the man. I live nearby. If Blackwater is hunting you, you must have something they want. We do, said Taimin. Information that could expose who's really behind this conflict. Sung Ho studied him for a moment, then lowered his rifle. The blue one from the sky, aren't you? I've been tracking the signal since your ship came down. Taimin was startled. You know about me? I know many things, said Sung Ho. I used to be military intelligence before I retired. Come with me. Your friend needs medical attention and you need to get off this hill before that drone brings Blackwater down on us. They followed Sung Ho through the forest to a small, well-hidden cabin. Inside, it looked like a normal home, but one room was filled with computers, radios, and monitoring equipment. You've been spying on Blackwater, said Sun Wu as Sung Ho helped him to a chair. Not just Blackwater, said Sung Ho. 3 years ago, I noticed strange signals coming from orbit. Communications that didn't match any known satellite pattern. Then advanced weapons started appearing in the conflict zone. I've been tracking it all, building a case. A case for what? Asked Juri as she cleaned Sun Wu's wound with supplies Sung Ho provided. Alien intervention, said Sung Ho, looking directly at Taimin. Your people have been manipulating our war, haven't they? Taimin placed the Novan datapad on the table. Not my people. One faction. A general named Kai Vek. He's been supplying weapons to escalate your conflict, creating an excuse for a full invasion. Sung Ho picked up the datapad. I can't read your language, but I believe you. It matches the pattern I've been seeing. He turned to one of his computers and pulled up a map showing signal origins across the region. These red dots are where the strange transmissions have been coming from. All Blackwater facilities. Taimin studied the map. Communication relays. They've built a network to stay in contact with Kai Vek's ships. But why? Asked Juri. Why would your people want to invade Earth? Resources, most likely, said Taimin. Your planet is rich in minerals that are rare on Nova, and Kai Vek has always believed that expansion is the key to Novan survival. Classic colonialism, said Sung Ho bitterly. Some things are universal, it seems. I sent a message to my government, said Taimin. If they received it, they might stop Kai Vek's plan. But I don't know if it got through. Sung Ho went to another computer and checked some readings. There was a burst transmission from the Ridge station last night before it was destroyed. High-powered, directed toward space. That was you? Taimin nodded. But even if it reached Nova, I don't know if the Council will believe one soldier over a respected general. Then we need more proof, said Sung Ho. And a way to share it widely. with both your people and mine." He pointed to a larger facility on his map. "This is Blackwater's main base in the region. If they're coordinating with your general, that's where they'll be doing it. They must have more detailed records there." "We'd never get in," said Sunwoo. "It's too heavily guarded." "Not from the front," agreed Sung-ho. "But there's an old maintenance tunnel that runs under the facility. It was part of a mining operation before Blackwater took over. I've mapped it but never had a reason to use it. Until now." Taemin looked at the tunnel diagram. "If we could get inside, I could access their main computer system. Novan technology interfaces with human systems in specific ways. I could find the evidence we need." "It's too dangerous," said Juri. "Sunwoo is injured and Blackwater is hunting us. We should try to reach the northern safe zone and contact the authorities there. By the time the authorities believe us and act, it might be too late," said Taiman. "If Kaivek's invasion force is already on the way, we have days at most." They debated the options, finally agreeing on a plan. Sunwoo would stay with Sung-ho to recover. His injury would make him a liability on the mission. Taemin and Juri would attempt to infiltrate the Blackwater base using the maintenance tunnel, gather evidence, and transmit it to both Earth authorities and Nova using Sung-ho's equipment. "Here," said Sung-ho, giving them small communication devices. "These are encrypted. We can stay in contact and I can guide you through the tunnels." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Sung-ho provided them with maps, weapons, and tools that might help them bypass security systems. As night fell, they were ready to leave. "Be careful," said Sunwoo, grasping Juri's hand. "Come back alive." "We will," she promised. She looked at Taemin. "Both of us." They traveled through the night, staying off roads and avoiding open areas where drones might spot them. By morning, they had reached the hills overlooking the Blackwater base. The facility was large and well protected, high walls, guard towers, and regular patrols. Vehicles and helicopters came and went throughout the day. They watched from a distance, studying the patterns. "The tunnel entrance should be 2 kilometers east of the main gate," said Sung-ho over the radio, "in a dry riverbed near some large rocks." They found the entrance hidden under fallen trees and brush. It had clearly not been used in years. The door was rusty but opened with some effort. "We're in," whispered Taemin into the radio. "Good," replied Sung-ho. "The tunnel runs for 3 kilometers before it reaches a junction beneath the facility. Be careful. I don't know what condition it's in after all these years." The tunnel was dark and damp. They used small lights to see, moving carefully to avoid making noise. In some places, the ceiling had partially collapsed, forcing them to crawl. After an hour of slow progress, they reached the junction Sung-ho had mentioned. Old mining equipment lay abandoned in the larger chamber. "Now what?" asked Juri. "According to the old blueprints, there should be an access shaft leading up to a maintenance room inside the facility," said Sung-ho over the radio. "Look for a metal ladder on the north wall." They found the ladder, rusted but still intact. It led up to a heavy metal hatch. "This will bring us into the facility," said Taemin. "Once we're inside, we need to find a computer terminal." "How will we know which one has the information we need?" asked Juri. "Novan interfaces leave specific energy signatures," said Taemin. "I can detect them. We just need to get close enough." Taemin listened at the hatch, then slowly pushed it open. They emerged in a small storeroom filled with cleaning supplies. The door to the hallway was locked from the outside. "Now what?" whispered Juri. Taemin examined the door. Standard electronic lock. "I can bypass it." He took out a small device Sung-ho had given him and attached it to the lock. After a few seconds, the light turned green. They slipped into the hallway, which was empty but brightly lit. Security cameras were mounted at each intersection. "Stay close to the wall," whispered Taemin. "Move when I move." They made their way through the facility, avoiding guards and cameras when possible. Taemin used his Novan senses to detect electronic signatures. After 20 minutes of careful movement, he stopped outside a door marked server room. "In here," he said. "I can sense Novan technology." The door required a keycard. Juri looked around nervously. "We don't have one of those." "We don't need it," said Taemin. He placed his hand over the card reader and closed his eyes. Novan soldiers had certain abilities that humans didn't. One was interfacing directly with electronic systems. It was painful and dangerous, but possible. Taemin's hand glowed slightly as he connected with the system. The door clicked open. Inside, rows of computer servers hummed quietly. At the far end was a workstation with several monitors. Stand watch at the door, said Taemin. Back at Sung-Ho's cabin, they gathered around the communication equipment. Taemin's wound had been treated, but the blue stain on his bandages was a stark reminder of how different he was from the humans who had become his allies. The data confirms everything, said Sung-Ho, examining the files they had stolen. Blackwater has been receiving weapons and technology from this General Kai-Vek for almost a year. In exchange, they've been creating conflict zones that will serve as landing sites for the invasion force. How soon? Asked Hansu. 2 days, said Taemin. The fleet is already approaching Earth orbit. 20 ships, each carrying enough soldiers to secure a major city. We need to warn the world government, said Juri. Who would believe us? Asked Sunwoo, who was still recovering from his own wound. A story about alien invasion plans from a rebel group in a war zone? They'd think it was a hoax or propaganda. We need proof they can't ignore, said Sung-Ho. He turned to Taemin. Can we contact your government directly? The ones who sent the diplomatic mission? Taemin nodded slowly. If we can boost the signal strength of your equipment, I might be able to reach the High Council on Nova. But even with this evidence, they might not act quickly enough. Then we fight on 2 fronts, said Hansu. We contact both governments while also disrupting Kai-Vek's operation on the ground. They developed a plan. Sung-Ho would use his intelligence contacts to get the evidence to human authorities who might listen. Taemin would modify Sung-Ho's equipment to send a message to the Novan High Council. Meanwhile, Hansu's fighters would attack the Blackwater base to destroy the landing beacons that would guide Kai-Vek's invasion ships. As the others prepared, Taemin and Juri worked on modifying the communication equipment. If this works, said Juri quietly, what will happen to you? Will you return to your world? Taemin paused in his work. I don't know. I've violated my orders by sharing Novan technology with humans. I've interfered in military operations. By my world's laws, I'm a traitor. You're trying to prevent a war, said Juri. Surely they'll understand that. War is different for Novans, explained Taemin. We're taught that expansion and conquest are necessary for survival. Peace is just the preparation for the next conflict. He looked at her. That's why your world confused us so much. You fight wars, yes, but you also build memorials to the dead. You write books about the horrors of battle. You create organizations dedicated to peace. It's a contradiction we didn't understand. And now? Asked Juri. Now I see that the contradiction is what makes humans special, said Taemin. You know the cost of war, but you fight anyway when necessary. You protect life even in the middle of death. It's impressive. They worked through the night to modify the equipment. By dawn, they were ready to send the message to Nova. This will transmit on a frequency only the High Council monitors, said Taemin. It's reserved for emergency communications from diplomatic missions. He recorded a message in his native language, explaining what he had discovered about Kai-Vek's plan. He included the data files as evidence and a plea for the Council to stop the invasion fleet. Message sent, he said finally. Now we wait. Hansu and his fighters departed to attack the Blackwater base. Sung-Ho used encrypted channels to contact his former colleagues in military intelligence. Hours passed with no response from either effort. Something's wrong, said Taemin, checking the equipment again. We should have received acknowledgement from the Council by now. Suddenly, the radio crackled. It was Hansu. Base attack successful. We destroyed the landing beacons, but Blackwater is responding in force. Heavy casualties. Falling back to secondary position. What about the communications array? Asked Sung-Ho. Disabled but not destroyed, replied Hansu through bursts of static. They're bringing in reinforcements from other bases. As they listened to the battle reports, Taemin noticed something on one of Sung-Ho's monitors. A signal detector was showing increased activity in orbit. Ships, he said, pointing to the screen. Novan ships entering low Earth orbit. The invasion has started early, but the beacons are destroyed, said Sunwoo. How will they know where to land? They don't need the beacons anymore, said Taemin grimly. They can track Blackwater communications directly. The cabin fell silent as the implications sank in. Their efforts had not stopped the invasion, only changed its timetable. What do we do now? Asked Juri. Before anyone could answer, a new signal appeared on the monitor, stronger and using a different frequency. That's a Novan command channel, said Taemin, adjusting the equipment to receive it. A voice spoke in the Novan language. Taemin listened intently, his expression changing from concern to surprise. What is it? Asked Juri. It's Commander Jiwan, said Taimin, my former mentor. She says the High Council received my message. They've ordered Kaivek to stand down. The fleet is not here to invade, but to arrest him, and any Novans participating in the illegal operation. Relief flooded the room, but it was short-lived. The radio crackled again with Hansu's voice. Multiple aircraft approaching from the north. Not Blackwater design. Repeat, unknown aircraft approaching. Kaivek's forces, said Taimin. He must be trying to establish a landing zone before the Council ships can stop him. Your message split the invasion force, said Sung Ho. Some are following the Council's orders, some are still loyal to Kaivek. Taimin made a decision. I need to contact Commander Jiwan directly. If I can lead her ships to Kaivek's landing zone, they can stop him. Using the modified equipment, Taimin sent a direct message to Jiwan's ship, providing coordinates for the likely landing zone near the Blackwater base. He also explained that humans were fighting against Kaivek's allies on the ground. Message acknowledged, he said after receiving a response. Jiwan is diverting her ships to intercept Kaivek's forces. But it will take time. Hansu and his fighters are on their own until then. Not entirely on their own, said Sunwoo, standing up despite his injury. We should go help them. You're still wounded, protested Juri. So is Taimin, said Sunwoo. But this is bigger than any of us now. They gathered weapons and supplies, preparing to join Hansu's forces. As they were about to leave, Sung Ho's equipment detected a new signal. Incoming transmission, said Sung Ho. Global frequency. It's being broadcast everywhere. They crowded around the monitor as an image appeared. A Novan face, stern and decorated with military insignia. It was General Kaivek. People of Earth, he said, his words translated into multiple human languages. I am General Kaivek of the Novan Defense Force. For too long your species has wasted its potential in petty conflicts and self-destruction. Today that ends. My forces will establish control zones in key regions to bring order and progress to your world. Resistance is futile and will only result in unnecessary casualties. Accept Novan guidance and you will prosper under our protection. The broadcast ended, replaced by reports of Novan ships appearing over major cities around the world. Panic was spreading as governments tried to understand what was happening. He's trying to create confusion, said Taimin, making it look like a full-scale invasion so Earth won't know some Novan ships are actually trying to stop him. We need to broadcast the truth, said Juri. Show everyone what's really happening. Sung Ho turned to his equipment. I can piggyback on Kaivek's signal frequency. If Taimin records a message, I can broadcast it to the same audience. Taimin nodded and recorded a new message, explaining Kaivek's deception and the Novan Council's efforts to stop him. He included parts of the evidence they had gathered, showing how Kaivek had manipulated the human conflict to create an excuse for invasion. Broadcasting now, said Sung Ho. As the message went out, they headed toward the Blackwater base to join Hansu's forces. The sky above was filled with lights. Novan ships engaged in battle with each other, loyalist against rebel. They found Hansu and his remaining fighters taking cover in the forest near the base. A large clearing had been turned into a landing zone for Kaivek's ships. 2 have already landed, said Hansu. They're deploying troops and equipment. We've been holding them off, but there are too many. Help is coming, said Taimin. Commander G1's ships will be here soon. Even as he spoke, new lights appeared in the sky. Larger ships descending toward the battle zone. Kaivek's forces fired upon them, but the new arrivals were better armed and protected. Those are council ships, said Taimin. Military grade, not the modified civilian vessels Kaivek is using. They watched as G1's ships engaged Kaivek's forces both in the air and on the ground. Novan fighting Novan while humans looked on. We should help, said Juri. Show them that humans are not just victims in this. Hansu agreed, and they joined the battle, targeting Blackwater forces who were supporting Kaivek's troops. The fighting was intense but brief. Outnumbered and outgunned, Kaivek's forces soon began to surrender. As the battle ended, a shuttle landed near their position. The door opened, and a female Novan in a commander's uniform stepped out, flanked by guards. Commander G1, said Taimin, stepping forward. G1 looked at him, then at the humans with him. Captain Taimin, you've caused quite a disruption in our military hierarchy. Kaivek was planning an unauthorized invasion, said Taimin. He manipulated this human conflict to create an excuse.